Our cameras were there as the community came together for the Marshall County community. Again, as they went through quite the loss, a tragedy that is still unfounded for them to accept. Two 15-year-old students at Marshall County High School were shot and killed, and according to police, it was another 15-year-old student who fired the gun. Bailey Holt and Preston Cope were the kids that were shot and killed. They have already been laid to rest, but as you can see from the community there in Benton, Kentucky, whether it is sign or whether it's candlelight vigils, it is still very much a sore topic for them, one that it'll take for them quite some time to get over. But if anything, they have gone together as a community to stay strong. As we've seen, the hashtag Marshall Strong was everywhere, whether it was through posters in businesses or posters that people are holding. Community like that, when they come together, how much of that is such a healing process?
It's definitely very healing for the parents, especially who have lost their children, so it's very healthy for them to be around the peers of the children that they lost, and to hear that administrators and parents and teachers are coming together to prevent this from happening again, so that it doesn't happen in vain, and that we're now going to take steps to be even more careful than we have been in the past.
Is there a time to grieve? And is there appropriate length? I guess it all depends on the person, right?
It does depend on the person, and it also depends on the trauma. So if you are experiencing the death of someone that you suspected was going to die for some time, like a grandparent, then the grieving process is going to be shorter. But for something like this, the grieving process is going to take years for these students.
And how important is it to not jump into conclusions about other people's concerns?
Are you talking about as it relates to the shooter?
The shooter, or again, any other traumatic event?
Yeah, it's very important not to jump to conclusions, because we really don't know what happened at this point. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. People are wanting to place blame somewhere because they want to make sense of what happened, and it's really just nonsensical. It really doesn't do any good to start pointing fingers or talking about who is to blame for this until we really have the details of what happened.
It is interesting you say that, because just even hours after the Marshall County High School shooting, of course, social media is such a huge game now that people started plastering pictures and names and whatnot. And at the same time, it's like, for us specifically, even the shooter's family, everyone here, they've lost something. And they've all been affected negatively, of course, in some sort of way. And so it's very interesting you point that out, that you can't just jump into pointing fingers, because I think a lot of people, maybe out of nature, just tend to do that.
Right. Well, we want to make sense of what happened, but my guess would be, if you ask the parents who lost the children, that they would say, that doesn't matter to me right now. I just lost my child. Let's focus our energy on the students who have lost their friends, and the siblings who've lost their sister and their brother. So yeah, I mean, it just doesn't really do much good to start speculating when we don't know the details.
And let's talk about, again, I know we'll be wrapping up soon, but please, let parents know, even if their child did not go through a shooting, and of course it's everywhere now in the news, what they can do now, what they can say to their kids to hopefully prepare them and not get such that narrative in their head.
So that's going to differ depending on the child's age. So for someone who's an adolescent who is the same age as the students who were killed, they're probably going to be affected the most, because they are now understanding that this happened to someone who's the same age as they are. And so I would say, I know you know about the shooting, or maybe we've watched this footage together. Let's watch the news together. What questions do you have? What do you think about that? And let them give an opinion about what they're hearing on the news, and then to bring in the piece about, we're going to do whatever we can to keep you safe. And if you ever want to have a conversation about this, I'm here to talk to you. And also, these are the things that I'm going to do as a parent to ensure that your school is being more proactive, and to follow through on that.
To me, I think what's most helpful about tonight is the word listen.
Yes.
Such a huge deal. Even when you ask, how are you? I think that to me, the simple steps of listening and just making sure that you do, like, you're caring for someone, you're comforting, I think it just goes a long way. And so, anything else you'd like to add? I know we talked about so many things, but what parents should really, really take away from tonight?
I would just say that any time that there is cause for concern or something seems off or you want to ask the question, to ask it. I think that so many people think, if I ask if my child feels suicidal, well, then I'm going to plant that idea in his or her head. That's not the case. So if you have a question or a concern, don't write it off as normal childhood behavior. Make sure that you're the parent. You're usually pretty in tune to what's going on with your child. If you have a feeling that something's off, just making sure that you attend to that and that you're asking the question.
What if the relationship between the child and the parent, it's a little divisive, there's a lot of angst, there's a lot of anger, but yet the parent is concerned for maybe they see signs. What's a good way to approach that? I'm thinking back to even, my siblings or even some friends I know who had a very, very tough relationship with their parents. They were angry at their parents for a lot of things. What's a good way for a parent to approach the kid without making them even more angry?
Right. If there's a lot of discord, you hear the phrase, it takes a village, and it certainly does. So if you have, if your child has a friend whose parents maybe your kid relates to, have them approach your child and talk to them about it. Coaches, teachers that they like and respect, who maybe are a little bit younger than you are. I would say, even if there's a little bit of discord, especially among adolescents, that's pretty normal. And so if they're angry with you, don't feel like you can't have the conversation with them, because typically behind that, there's some love and some connection. If it really is a really dysfunctional relationship, then certainly bring in other people or bring in a clinician to have the conversation with them.
Is it safe to say typically they want to be heard?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, they do.
Again, easier said than done. I'm just imagining, hopefully parents are inspired to just talk with their children. Again, we have seen so many things in the news lately. If you can go to Marshall County now, what kind of questions would you ask the students maybe 2 weeks after?
So as a clinician, if I went in and I was talking to them, I would just be asking them if they have had any sort of symptoms that are causing them problems. Are you still having trouble sleeping? Are you crying uncontrollably? Have you been able to get the support that you need from your friends or your family? And if not, what else do you need? Again, asking the question, what do you need? What can I do for you? And sometimes they don't know what they need. They need you to listen, or they just need you to be present, or they need to hear about what you're going to do to help them feel safe.
Wow. I'm sure they still have a long, we always say that, they still have a long road ahead. But of course, our best wishes for all the families and friends there and the classmates at Marshall County High School. As we continue this topic, we have a few minutes left. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to call us. One more time, we'll have more after the break.